It's on. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4, verse number 24. That is Srimad Bhagavatam 4.4.24. So let's get started. Maitreya Vacha Ityadvari Daksham Anudhya Shatruhan Shitao Udhichim Nishad Shantavak Sprishtva Jalam Pita Dukula Samvritta Nimilya Drigyoga Patam Samavishad. Synonyms. Maitreya Uvacha. Maitreya said, Iti, thus, Advare, in the arena of sacrifice, Daksham, to Daksha, Anudhya, speaking, Shatruhan, O annihilator of enemies, Shitao, on the ground, Udichim, facing north, Nishada, sat down, Shantavak, in silence, Sprishtva, after touching, Jalam, water, Pita Dukula Samvrita, dressed in yellow garments, Nimilya, closing, Dhrik, the vision, Yoga Patam, the mystic yoga process, Sama Vishad, became absorbed. So now we will read the translation. Maitreya the sage told Vidura, O annihilator of enemies, while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is said that when a man desires to quit his body, he dresses in saffron garments. Therefore, it appears that Sati changed her dress, indicating that she was going to quit the body given her by Daksha. Daksha was Sati's father, so instead of killing Daksha, she decided it would be better to destroy the part of his body which was hers. Thus, she decided to give up the body of Daksha by the yogic process. Sati was the wife of Lord Shiva, who is known as Yogeshwara, the best among all the yogis, because he knows all the mystic processes of yoga. So it appeared that Sati also knew them. Either she learned yoga from her husband, or she was enlightened because she was the daughter of such a great king as Daksha. The perfection of yoga is that one can give up one's body or release oneself from the embodiment of material elements according to one's desire. Yogis who have attained perfection are not subject to death by natural laws. Such perfect yogis can leave the body whenever they desire. Generally, the yogi first of all becomes mature in controlling the air passing within the body, thus bringing the soul to the top of the brain. Then, when the body bursts into flames, the yogi can go anywhere he likes. This yoga system recognizes the soul, and thus it is distinct from the so-called yoga's process for controlling the cells of the body, which has been discovered in the modern age. The real yoga process accepts the transmigration of the soul from one planet to another or one body to another, and it appears from this incident that Sati wanted to transfer her soul to another body or sphere. So that's the end of the purport. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripasindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा Rama Rama Hare Hare. Okay. So today we are reading verse number 24, fourth canto, fourth chapter. And, so before we actually begin, this is about describing about how Sati is preparing for mystic yoga and some details about the mystic yoga process. And so before we go into that, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction on how we, what we have, some of the background. So Sati actually is the daughter of Daksha, and who's a Prajapati, who's actually the leader of the Prajapatis. And what really happened one time was that the leaders of creation, they performed a great sacrifice, and a lot of people, a lot of like demigods and sages and so on, they philosophers, they attended. And then suddenly, into the arena, someone came who was like as radiant as the sun, and that was like Daksha. And he was looking radiant, and he was the leader of the Prajapatis, very confident, and everybody stood up. Such an exalted personality has come, and so they all stood up. But two people did not stand up. One is Brahma did not stand up, and Shiva did not stand up. Now Brahma is Daksha's father, right? So Daksha didn't take any exception to that, but Daksha was very angry that Shiva did not stand up to greet him, especially as Daksha was his father-in-law, and he thought that, firstly, I'm more elevated spiritually than him, and then I'm his father-in-law. I gave him my daughter on, only on due to Brahma's insistence, and so, Daksha was so angry, and he said that all the demigods will take a share of the oblations, but Shiva will get none. And he stormed out of the sacrificial arena. And then we have, Daksha Nandishwar, who is a close associate of Lord Shiva, uttering curses. And then we have Lord Bhrigu on the other side, uttering counter curses. And Shiva became very morose, when he heard all this, and he left the arena with his disciples. And so really what happened is this was the actually big, this created a lot of enmity between the two. And when Daksha decided to perform another, like Brahma, it's called the Brihaspati Seva sacrifice and the Vajpaya sacrifice, he did not even invite, his daughter and Lord Shiva. Chiefly because he was very, very proud of his position, Daksha. He thought he was better. And also he was he was envious of Lord Shiva also. That was another problem. And Sati, she tells Lord Shiva that, she sees everybody going for her father's sacrifice. And she thinks, he's my father. Why does he need to even invite me? Like we go to our parents' house without invitation, right? So she said that maybe it's just, an oversight. Like, why would he invite us? We're just expected to go, right? So she tells Lord Shiva that, and Lord Shiva said, yeah, you're right that we don't, we probably don't need an invitation, but as long as no fault is found, But the thing is, he has found fault with me, and he's angry with me. And you are mark my words that you can go, but he's not going to honor you, because of me. He has a lot of good qualities, but the problem is he has become too proud, and he has lost all his good sense. And so he has. It's envy has also. It's a problem with the envy also. I was actually, Lord Shiva explains that, I'm always offering my respects to Lord Vasudeva. And I offered my respect to Lord Vasudeva in Daksha's heart. There was no need for me to get up and offer respects to his body. I was in a meditative trance. And so if you decide to go, it's your choice, but only bad will come out of it. And, Shiva is so good that he's giving her the choice, go if you want to, but, bad will come out of it. And so, but she made the decision that anyway she wants to go, and she goes with a lot of fanfare. Is like the yakshas and the nandis and Shiva's disciples. They accompany her, and they go. They give her all respect. And but when she reaches Daksha's home, hymns are being chanted, and everything. The sacrifice is underway, but everyone's looking at her nervously because they know that she's Lord Shiva's wife, and Daksha does not like Lord Shiva. And her father actually looked at her blankly. He did not even bother to welcome her. And he greeted other guests. He did not even talk. And she noticed he totally ignored her. Her mother and sisters even then greeted her, but the father was totally, he ignored her. And it was actually very insulting. And for her, she was his favorite daughter, the youngest. So in the sacrificial arena, she also noticed that there were no oblations for Lord Shiva. And she was so hurt, and she was so angry with her father's behavior, that she says, actually Lord Shiva loves everyone equally, but oh father, like, you're finding faults with everyone, and you are committing blasphemy of a great soul. And so since I have no choice, since I cannot kill you, I have to kill myself. And so then this verse particular comes into, that Maitreya is telling, of course, Vidura. She is actually sitting down in the arena of sacrifice. And now she has decided that she has to give up her body by the mystic yoga process. And that she sits down, and she prepares to give her body. And so this is a very pivotal moment in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the point where Sati Devi, who is not able to actually tolerate the blasphemy of her husband, decides to voluntarily quit her body. And this verse is actually talking about the perfection of the yoga system. So when we read the translation once more, Maitreya told Vidura, O annihilator of enemies, while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the mystic yoga process. So today, when we go, we see that yoga is a way to make our body fit, right? That is the model. We go to these yoga studios and do these yogasanas to keep our body fit, but that is actually not what the perfection of the yoga system means. The perfection is the liberation of the soul from material entanglement, really. And Sati, in fact, she just didn't die, like in the sense that we think, but she, through the power of a mystic yoga, she rejected a body which was contaminated by her father's offenses. And, we can actually said, that we can actually discuss, and Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he said that, that she couldn't kill her father. And she, who was known as even Dakshayani, Lord Shiva sometimes used to call her Dakshayani, daughter of Daksha. She said, I don't want to, my body is contaminated because it is given to me by Daksha. I need to change this body. And so that is why she did this Daksha, this yogic process. And also, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has very nicely said is that how do you think that she learned this yoga system? And there were two ways in which she learned the yoga system. One is that because she is the wife of Lord Shiva. And Shiva is the best among all the yogis, or he's also known as Yogeshwar. And he knows all these mystic processes. She may have learned it from him. Or she may even have learned it from Daksha, actually, because even Daksha was actually very elevated in this. So, but she knew this yogic process. And so the first thing that we notice over here is that she's sitting down. She's actually dressed in saffron garments. So it appears that she changed her clothes. And Prabhupada also mentions that when a man desires to quit his body, he dresses in saffron garments. So what is the significance of this? Because actually, saffron, it indicates renunciation. As sannyasis, sometimes they'll wear a complete renunciation. That's what it indicates. Sannyasis will wear sometimes saffron. They wear saffron. So actually, what she was trying to signify is that she is no longer a family woman or a daughter, that her identity is now changed, and that she is prepared to renounce. That was what the significance of this saffron garment which she wore was. And then we have another thing, which she says she sat on the ground and faced north. And why is it said that she faced north? North is because, in Vedic culture, sometimes in the north, that is the Himalayas, where in India and Himalayas, it is considered the direction of spiritual elevation. There are many yogis who go there. It's the abode of some devas and all that. And so when if she faced north during her transition, so it is, a desire to move towards higher consciousness and liberation. And and not like downwards where it is more like material rebirth. So she faced north. And and then another thing is, of course, she sanctified herself with water. That is just to sanctify her body. She put water, sanctified water. And then we have she quits her body through this Shat Chakra yoga system. So that those all things, in the next few verses, it will come up a little bit. A few details, and I do not know too much about it, but I can at least give an overview. And so this, the Shat Chakra system, or this mystic yoga system, it is actually, the essence of it is absorption on raising the life air through the body. And so of course the technicalities are a little bit complex. And but basically what it is that you transition the body, the mystic yogi transitions from the body to the soul. So for instance, the foundation is the physical, right? The physical process, the physical you. So first, the yogi takes a seat, and an asana, becomes steady, faces north, and in this case, say Sati is also wearing saffron. Then raises the life air, subtle, okay? That is pranayam, controls the breath to stabilize the mind. And then you have these chakra alignment, that is the prana moves through the energy centers. So from the Muladhara, which is the base chakra, you withdraw from the material roots. And then from the heart chakra, which is the Anahata chakra, she would focus on Lord Shiva, who was the object of her devotion. And then through intense concentration, reach the Agya chakra, which is the third eye. And then the final destination is like spiritual. That is through the crown chakra, the Sasrara, you raise the soul to the top of the head, and then you exit from the material frame. And all this, it creates a lot of heat, all this yogic process and yogic focus, it creates a lot of heat in the body, and then there is flames, and then the body bursts into flames. I mean, that's as far as I understood it. I'm sure that it would be, that there are more technicalities, but I'm just trying to do the best as per my level of knowledge here. So it is mostly, you can see like the body is like a ladder, right? So, like a ladder. And so like in our yoga systems now, when yoga studios and all that, we are just polishing the ladder, right? We're just polishing. But she used to climb off the ladder, right? From material existence to the spiritual sky. So think of it as that way. So I'm very, I've just given a brief thing, but the main thing for us, the main takeaway for us is that absorption, it requires a lot of absorption. And for us in this day and age in Kali Yuga, and as per our capacity, we can get the same effect through that is liberation, or through absorption in the holy names, that is Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if we really concentrate and get really absorbed in that, we can also reach a very high spiritual level, with that particular just the Mahamantra actually. So we don't need this mystic yoga process is very difficult. It's not even possible for people for our in our capacity, level of what we can do in this day and age. So first and foremost, one thing that I want to clarify from, absolutely, that this process of a mystic yoga, which Sati is going through, is actually a very elevated spiritual position and very hard to do. And one should never confuse it with suicide, because suicide is like a mundane thing. It is people who are mentally unstable, have a great problem, can't control the mind, they may go through suicide, and the soul is then forced out of the body, right? And it actually goes to a dark destination, through the suicide. But this one, what is yogic samadhi, it is totally different. It is voluntarily, she is relinquishing the body to get a more favorable one. It is a calculated kind of spiritual transition, and something that you and I can't do. Okay. So that is there. And, but the thing is, we shouldn't even think along those lines, that mystic yoga, because we can't even do it. But however, what can we do? We can give up bad association. If we cannot stop the blasphemy that is going on, then we should just leave the place. And then we should have mental detachment, and we should not associate with people who deviate us from the spiritual path. So that is our application. So first and foremost, when this, Srila Prabhupada, of course, in the purport also, he has emphasized this point, very, very vividly. And he says that generally the yogi, first of all, becomes mature in controlling the air passing through the body, bringing the soul to the top of the brain. Then when the body bursts into flames, the yogi can go anywhere. So this yoga system recognizes the soul, he says, and thus it is distinct from our so-called yoga system now, which controls the cells of the body. The real yoga system accepts the transmigration of the soul from one planet to another, or body to another, and it appears from that incident that Sati wanted to transfer her soul to another body or sphere. So, so what are some of our realizations? What can we do? Of course, Sati being very highly spiritually elevated, she gave up the body. Then she got another body as Parvati, right? But she is in a totally different category, right? So what can we do? So the first thing is the danger of our identity, is that we often identify with our material labels, like, okay, I have a very good job, or someone insulted me, or I was insulted once, So all those things, those are kind of the, I would call, muddy labels which we are holding on to, and those are temporary labels. So we have to give up those. And Sati actually gave that up in a way, in her own way, like, and she saved her, real identity, which is the spirit soul, which is perfectly pure and devoted, and she was a very chaste wife, and so on. And then the second thing is like envy. If we are connected to a very envious person, or someone who's always blaspheming, Lord Krishna, or the Lord, the Supreme Lord, then our cup becomes poisoned, even though we did not do it. Like, for instance, milk is very healthy, right? But when a serpent actually touches it, the same milk becomes poisoned. So in the same way, now the milk of Sati's relationship is totally poisoned, right? And she realized that, now she can't even just hold on to the cup, because the whole milk is poisoned, and she has to give it up. So sometimes we are staying in this toxic environment, or an unspiritual environment, thinking that we can handle it. But then if there's offense against devotees there, then the safest thing is to just step away. And the final realization that we could have is absorption. Because Sati, once she made up her mind, she had the single pointed absorption. Um, Now there's the story of Dronacharya. He told his students that there is a wooden tree bird on a tree, and what do you see? And some of them saw leaves, and some of them saw something. The bird, there was the wooden bird, but Arjuna, who was a very good archer, he says, I only see the eye of the bird. Like, he could only see, the actual thing, so the actual target. So similarly, so are we only seeing our daily worries? Are we seeing leaves and branches, or are we seeing the eye of the bird? That is another thing we need to think about. And now we can, as we conclude, I would just go through this again. This is actually Sati, that is Sati's mystic yoga. She's getting ready. She's sitting on the ground. She's facing north. She's dressed in saffron garments. She's sanctifying herself with water, and she's absorbing herself in the process of mystic yoga. So now, as we conclude, it's like you can imagine the 24 carat like gold diamond ring, right? Now, what happens when the ring is falling into mud? Mud gets the ring gets covered with mud, but does the ring lose its value? No, the value is still there, but you wouldn't wear it, right? When all the filth is there, right? So Sati was like that. She was like gold. Her soul was pure, her devotion was pure, but then she became covered with mud of Daksha's, faults. And so she just said, looked at the mud, and she said, I'm not this. And then, and she did the yogic process so that she could go and, get born appear as Parvati. And so that was because she was so highly elevated. But for us, of course, we cannot do that. But we are also, what we can learn from that is that we're also sitting in all these material settings, kind of like muddy water, and, which is our body. And so are all the mistakes that we are making. And we don't have to quit our bodies. And anyway, we don't know the mystic yoga system, or nor have the capability to do so. But we do have to quit this bad identification. So are we really concentrating on the mud, or are we looking at the gold within us? And what happens is that we should detach from contaminations, and have total absorption in just connection to Supreme Lord Krishna. So that's all. So and Sati, of course, does it in her way, and we also can do it in our way. Of course, we have the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which has been suggested, absorption in that, and that's something that one of the things that we can take very seriously. So that's all for now. Does anyone have any comments, or does anyone have any questions, or any additions or corrections? Please feel free. Okay, if
Sorry.
not, yeah,
Thank
yes.
you so much for doing class. No, I don't have any comment, Mataji, or question. So thank you for doing the class. I mean, I know, I think Sati took a very drastic step.
Yes.
So even the,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
thank you so much for explaining in detail about the.
Yes, yes, Prabha, no problem. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
yeah. Uh, so thank you everyone for attending and spending your time here, listening to my explanations. So Brantraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna.